Hello, this is Jaw 1, and we're back here reading the One Year Bible together. Uh, this is John,
I'm Benjamin.
And I'm John.
okay, and this is day 116, and we're looking at Luke chapter 22:54 through Luke 23, verse 12. And this is a tough passage to look at. It first starts off with Peter denying Jesus. And, you know, no one likes to talk about or see situations where somebody's arrested wrongly, being abused, um, you know, uh, and then the question is, are you going to have somebody's back? I mean, have you experienced situations where somebody either did have your back and stepped up, or experienced situations where somebody should have had your back, but didn't do anything?
Sure. I think I remember the times mostly though where I betrayed someone else. So those stick in my mind more, I think.
Yeah, me, it's the opposite. I think I've had more experiences of people letting me down.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
And
hard.
but there's a few rare ones that really accomplish sticking up for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jesus actually prophetically let Peter know that he knew that Peter was going to fail. And in a very real way, Jesus is, through this, saying something about all of us as human beings, like how well God knows us. What do you think that Jesus is trying to teach us through Peter about us as human beings?
It reminds me of going up against a master chess player. Like the whole God thing with and him being omniscient and all knowing. It almost feels like the moves are already done, and there's no really I don't see how Peter could have had any other way of to not deny him. Like that was already destined in some way.
Yeah, there's this thing that happens in the human condition where if we're put under certain kinds of pressure, if we're not ready for that pressure, we're going to fail. I mean, and I remember, sort of the laughter of the person who was trying to teach me how to drive stick. And it's like, I just could not get it into gear. I mean, they're like, don't worry, you're going to do this, and then you're going to stall out. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it right the first time. And he's like, it's not going to happen that way. And soon enough, my pride was all there. Like, I'm going to get this right, And he's like, no, well, you can try, I told you how to do it. I was like, I lurched forward, and I was like, it's like the engine cuts off, and I'm like, people drive like this? They actually drive cars that do this? I mean, it's only until we have the capacity. We have to go through the experience to get the capacity to get on the right channel. Any other thoughts about Peter on this?
I don't know. It reminds me to be humble. I feel the same
I
way
feel
that he
sorry
does.
for him. Yeah, in some way. I kind of feel the betrayal part.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty sad in some way.
Yeah.
The whole weeping part and
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you imagine yourself stronger than you actually are, it's hard to face that truth, and that's devastating. I know, there are ways in which I imagine myself stronger than I really am, and yet I've got to face the truth and let God deal with my soul as it is, rather than how I wish it was. And so we go down further, and Jesus is being, confronted by the council. And what they're basically waiting for is for them to have the right, the public right to kill him. So, are you the Messiah? If the answer is yes, we get to kill you. He says this really hardcore. I tell you, you won't believe me. But from now on, you will see the Son of Man will be seated in the place of power at God's right hand. It's like,
I don't have to answer.
It's like, you will see it.
Yeah.
After that, they're like, so you're claiming to be the Son of God.
Yeah, it reminds me of the times that we bait God into doing what we want him to do, to reveal himself.
But then Jesus says, "You say that I am."
So,
yeah.
What he's doing is he's making them responsible for their actions.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And for their interpretation of these events. And the fact that, wait a minute.
They know.
Yeah. And then on top of that, look, if the whole dynamic is one around not wanting to know the truth, but wanting to have power. Right? They bum rush him to later on here to Pilate, and then they're accusing him of all these things that weren't even talked about, in the last thing. Right? They're just ready to kill him, right? So they're saying, okay, you should kill this guy because, he's saying that people shouldn't pay taxes. That's a bad thing, right? Good reason to kill somebody, stop paying taxes, right? And he's claiming to be a king. And we can't have any other king besides Caesar.
Right.
So, straight up. So he asks, are you king of the Jews? And Jesus' reply is same thing. You've said it. And then Pilate says, I see what's going on. I don't find anything wrong with this man. And then he finds out that, he's a Galilean. So he sends him over to Herod. And then this next thing with Herod is like, wow, I've heard about this guy. He can do miracles. I want to see a miracle. I got lots of questions. I want my questions answered too. Yeah. So it'll be cool, man. I want to get miracles and questions. This is like, I've been waiting for this, And guess what? Jesus doesn't give him the miracles he wants or the questions answered. So, what do you think? I mean, why does Jesus go through this? I mean, Jesus, being God, he could have just said, end of chapter, I'm calling down the angels, the charade's over.
He's still teaching, he's still showing grace. Even though he's being betrayed by his creation.
Yeah. What do you think about this story? I mean, what would it be like to be trapped in the middle of that?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever experienced that. Being walked on that badly, I guess.
Yeah. You have any thoughts? Any last thoughts about this passage overall?
No, I mean, it speaks for itself.
No, none.
Yeah. I find that in the midst of all of this, I find an honest picture of when God does not respond with power, how far humanity is from understanding God's actions. You see, we live in a world that's so oriented around power that when God refuses to use his power, the world is confused.
So you cheat, man.
So anyway, I'm going to hold it up from there. God bless. Keep the faith.